Welcome, seekers of obscure knowledge and lovers of dark tales, to another deep exploration of one of gaming's most richly imagined nightmare realms. Tonight, we venture together into the terrifying heart of Bloodborne's nightmare of Mensis, a domain where human ambition collides with cosmic forces beyond comprehension, where scholarship becomes madness, and where the very architecture seems to bleed despair. For the next several hours, we will unravel the intricate tapestry of this devastatingly beautiful horror, examining its origins, its inhabitants, its philosophical implications, and its enduring power to haunt our imaginations long after we've put down the controller. What makes the nightmare of Mensis so uniquely terrifying isn't merely its monstrous inhabitants or its daunting challenges, but the profound tragedy at its core, the story of brilliant minds who sought to elevate humanity to godlike status, only to become imprisoned in a realm of their own creation, their consciousness distorted beyond recognition, their noble intentions twisted into something grotesque and incomprehensible. This is not simply a story of good versus evil, but of ambition versus humility, knowledge versus sanity, and the terrifying possibility that some truths are too vast for human minds to contain without shattering. As we embark on this journey together, imagine yourself not as a mere observer, but as an archaeologist of nightmares, carefully sifting through the fragments of a fallen civilization, piecing together the tragic sequence of events that led to this cosmic catastrophe. Picture the grand halls now populated by unspeakable horrors, the libraries filled with forbidden knowledge that drove their readers to madness, the once magnificent bridges spanning impossible distances, connecting structures that float in a sky the color of dried blood. This is more than a virtual environment. It is a philosophical statement rendered in stone, flesh, and nightmare. Our exploration will take us from the humble beginnings of Byrgenwerth College, where the first fateful discoveries were made, to the fateful schism that gave birth to the healing church, and finally to the radical experimentation of the School of Mensis that culminated in the creation of the nightmare itself. We will examine the key figures: the brilliant but misguided Micolash, the tragic Brain of Mensis, the protective wet nurse, and the mysterious infant Mergo, whose stories intertwine to form one of gaming's most sophisticated narratives. We will analyze the architectural wonders and horrors of the nightmare realm, decode the symbolism of its inhabitants, and confront the profound philosophical questions it raises about knowledge, ambition, and the very nature of consciousness. So make yourself comfortable, dim your lights, and prepare to descend into a world where dreams and nightmares coexist, where the boundaries between human and cosmic dissolve, and where the price of forbidden knowledge is etched into the very stones beneath your feet. What follows is not merely a description of a video game level, but an archaeological excavation of a tragedy written in blood, madness, and shattered dreams. The foundation. Byrgenwerth and the discovery of cosmic truth. Our story begins not in the nightmare itself, but in a place of learning, Byrgenwerth College, the prestigious institution where the first fateful encounters with cosmic forces occurred. Imagine a traditional academic setting, reminiscent of 19th century European universities, with stone buildings, extensive libraries, and scholars dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge in fields ranging from history to archaeology. This tranquil environment, however, would become the epicenter of a discovery that would forever alter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Scholars of Byrgenwerth, under the leadership of Provost Willem, initially focused on conventional academic pursuits. Their excavations beneath the city of Ihanam led them to the ancient tombs of an forgotten civilization, where they made an astonishing discovery, evidence of beings they would come to call the Great Ones. These entities existed on planes of reality far beyond human comprehension, possessing knowledge and capabilities that seemed godlike in comparison to human limitations. More significantly, the scholars discovered remnants of these beings, including what would become known as the Old Blood. Willem recognized both the opportunity and the danger represented by these discoveries. He understood that humanity existed on what he called the basest of planes of consciousness, and that to comprehend the Great Ones, humans would need to evolve beyond their biological and psychological limitations. His famous epiphany, "We are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes," would become the guiding principle for his research. Willem believed that the path to enlightenment required the literal and figurative expansion of human perception, even suggesting that lining one's brain with eyes would facilitate this transformation. Early experiments at Byrgenwerth yielded remarkable results. The scholars developed medicines from the old blood that could cure diseases and extend life. But these treatments came with unexpected consequences. Researchers who delved too deeply into the arcane mysteries they uncovered often found their sanity fraying, leading to the development of sedatives to calm their fractured nerves. This often created a dependency on blood ministration, establishing a pattern that would repeat throughout Bloodborne's history. Willem's students, two figures would play particularly significant roles in the events that followed. Lawrence, a passionate and ambitious scholar, grew impatient with Willem's cautious methodology. He believed the old blood should be used immediately to alleviate human suffering, rather than pursuing the slow, deliberate path of enlightenment advocated by Willem. Their philosophical disagreement culminated in Lawrence's departure from Byrgenwerth, with Willem offering his former student a final warning. Fear the old blood, meanwhile, another student named Karel took a different approach to understanding the Great Ones, developing a system of runes that could transcribe the speech of these cosmic entities. Unlike the blood ministration that would become central to the healing church, Karel's method represented a different path to transcendence, one that didn't rely on biological transformation, but on symbolic communication with cosmic forces. Tragic dimensions of Byrgenwerth's research became apparent in what would later be known as the Kos incident. Scholars discovered a fishing village where they believed the residents had established contact with the Great Ones. In their relentless pursuit of knowledge, the scholars conducted horrific experiments on the villagers, forcibly searching their skulls for internal eyes that might provide evidence of cosmic enlightenment. The aftermath of these actions would haunt the scholars, with the accursed villagers forever muttering their hatred of Byrgenwerth in the nightmare realms. These events at Byrgenwerth established the foundational tragedy that would reverberate throughout Bloodborne's world. The college represented humanity's first tentative steps toward cosmic understanding, but it also demonstrated the dangers of pursuing knowledge without wisdom, power without responsibility. The schism between Willem's cautious enlightenment and Lawrence's practical application of cosmic power would create factions that eventually led to the catastrophe embodied by the nightmare of Mensis. The healing church and the schism Lawrence's departure from Byrgenwerth marked a pivotal moment in Bloodborne's history, the point where cosmic knowledge moved from academic contemplation to practical application on a societal scale. Rejecting Willem's cautious approach, Lawrence established the Healing Church, an institution that would combine religious fervor with scientific experimentation, all centered around the miraculous properties of the old blood. Healing Church presented itself as a benevolent organization, offering healing to the sick and comfort to the afflicted through the ministration of the old blood. This blood, derived from the Great Ones, possessed remarkable curative properties, capable of curing diseases that conventional medicine couldn't touch. The Church's ability to provide these miraculous cures granted them unprecedented influence and power throughout Ihanam, transforming the city into a destination for those seeking healing from across the world. The surface of this benevolent institution, however, lay a far more ambitious agenda. The Healing Church continued the research begun at Byrgenwerth, but with a different emphasis. Where Willem sought enlightenment, the Church sought transformation. Their goal was nothing less than the evolution of humanity into something closer to the Great Ones, using the old blood as a catalyst for this transformation. This agenda remained hidden from the general populace, who saw only the healing properties of the blood, not its transformative and ultimately destructive potential. The Healing Church, two powerful factions emerged with different approaches to achieving this transformation. The choir, representing the highest echelons of the church, consisted of clerics and scholars who continued the Byrgenwerth tradition of scholarly research. Members of the choir covered their eyes to indicate their debt to Willem's teachings, embracing his belief that expanded perception was key to transcendence. Their research focused on communing with the Great Ones directly, eventually establishing contact with ebrietas, a left-behind Great One discovered in the labyrinths beneath Ihanam. School of Mensis, meanwhile, pursued a more radical path. Where the choir emphasized careful study and gradual enlightenment, the School of Mensis sought immediate, direct contact with the Great Ones through dramatic rituals and experimentation. This fundamental difference in methodology would eventually lead to the creation of the Nightmare of Mensis, with catastrophic consequences for all involved. Healing Church's influence extended beyond spiritual and medical matters. To maintain order in Ihanam and deal with the unintended consequences of blood ministration, the Church established an organization of hunters. Initially conceived as a security force, these hunters were tasked with combating the beasts that began to appear as side effects of the old blood's transformative properties. What began as a practical necessity, however, soon evolved into a sacred calling, with hunters becoming both protectors of humanity and instruments of the Church's. Will the tragedy of the healing Church lies in the gradual corruption of initially noble intentions. Lawrence genuinely sought to alleviate human suffering, but in doing so through the application of forces he didn't fully understand, he unleashed a plague of beasthood upon Ihanam. The Church's secret agenda of human evolution, combined with the addictive properties of the old blood, transformed the city from a beacon of healing into a nightmare landscape where citizens transformed into monstrous beasts. This tension between noble intentions and horrific outcomes represents one of Bloodborne's central themes. The healing Church sought to elevate humanity, but instead unleashed its degeneration into beasthood. They pursued communion with cosmic entities, but instead created a cycle of violence and transformation. The School of Mensis, emerging from this environment of conflicting ambitions and hidden agendas, would take these contradictions to their logical and terrifying conclusion. The School of Mensis. Origins and ambitions from the fractured theological and philosophical landscape of the healing Church emerged the School of Mensis, perhaps the most radical and ultimately tragic faction in Bloodborne's world. Unlike their predecessors at Byrgenwerth or their counterparts in the choir, the scholars of Mensis pursued cosmic transcendence through methods that blurred the lines between scholarship, ritual magic, and madness. School of Mensis represented a third path toward cosmic understanding, distinct from both Willem's contemplative approach at Byrgenwerth and Lawrence's practical application of the old blood through the healing Church. Where Willem advocated patience and gradual enlightenment, and Lawrence sought to heal and transform society, the School of Mensis focused on immediate, direct communication with the Great Ones, regardless of the cost. This impatience with conventional methodology would define their approach and ultimately lead to their catastrophic transformation. Name Mensis itself carries significant symbolic weight, derived from the Latin word for month, with connections to menstruation, fertility, and cyclical patterns. This linguistic choice reflects the school's fascination with blood, birth, and cosmic cycles, themes that permeate Bloodborne's narrative. The School of Mensis saw themselves as midwives to a new form of existence, facilitating the birth of humanity into a higher state of being through contact with the Great Ones. Central to the School of Mensis's methodology was the Mensis cage, a hexagonal iron device designed to be worn over the head. Unlike conventional scholarly tools, the cage represented a fusion of technology and ritual magic. Its designers believed that human consciousness required mechanical enhancement to perceive cosmic truths, viewing the human skull as an inadequate container for expanded awareness. The cage was intended to restrain the will of the self, allowing the wearer to perceive reality without the filtering effects of human psychological defenses. Theoretical foundation for the Mensis cage reveals the school's unique understanding of consciousness and its limitations. They believed that human perception operated within artificially imposed constraints, biological and psychological barriers that prevented direct communion with higher dimensional beings. By mechanically modifying these constraints through the cage, they hoped to achieve what years of study and meditation had failed to deliver: direct access to cosmic truth. School's research methodology differed dramatically from traditional academic approaches. Evidence suggests they engaged in human experimentation, kidnapping residents from Ihanam and surrounding areas to serve as test subjects in their rituals. The presence of captured choir members in Yahargul indicates their willingness to experiment even on fellow scholars who pursued similar goals through different means. This ethical boundary crossing demonstrates the school's conviction that their ends justified any means, no matter how horrific. School of Mensis also established connections with the amygdala, the lesser great ones who served as intermediaries between the human world and more powerful cosmic entities. Unlike other factions that viewed the amygdala with fear or reverence, the School of Mensis treated them as research partners, studying their nature and capabilities to facilitate contact with even more powerful beings. This relationship would prove crucial to their eventual success in contacting Mergo, though it also contributed to their ultimate downfall. Geographic scope of the school's influence extended far beyond their primary base in the unseen village of Yahargul. They maintained research facilities throughout the region, including connections to Hemwick Charnel Lane, where they harvested organs from the dead for use in their blasphemous rituals. This network of facilities allowed them to coordinate research efforts on a scale that exceeded what any individual institution could accomplish alone. School's relationship with the healing church proved complex and antagonistic. While both institutions had emerged from Byrgenwerth's original research program, their competing philosophies and methods created significant tension. The healing church viewed the school's experimental approach as dangerously reckless, while the school saw the church's humanitarian focus as a waste of cosmic potential. This rivalry escalated into active conflict, with each institution conducting espionage operations against the other. The School of Mensis represents the ultimate expression of scholarly ambition, untempered by ethical constraints or humility. Their story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pursuing knowledge without wisdom, power without responsibility. Their methodology, combining rigorous scholarship with ritualistic experimentation, created a volatile mixture that would ultimately consume its creators, transforming them from seekers of truth into permanent residents of a nightmare of their own making. Micolash and the Mensis, ritual among the scholars of the School of Mensis. One figure stands apart as both the architect of their cosmic achievement and the eternal guardian of their nightmare creation, Micolash, the host of the nightmare. His story embodies the tragic paradox of successful transcendence. He achieved everything the school had dreamed of, yet finds himself trapped in an existence that mocks the very ambitions that drove him to seek transformation in the first place. Micolash began his academic journey as a student at Byrgenwerth, studying under Master Willem and learning the ancient mysteries discovered beneath the earth. His uniform, the distinctive brown garb of a Byrgenwerth graduate complete with ceremonial cape, marks him as having completed the formal academic program before pursuing more radical avenues of research. Like many of his colleagues, Micolash grew frustrated with the limitations of traditional scholarship, developing a worldview that saw normal human existence as fundamentally inadequate. Micolash's intellectual development was shaped by his deep engagement with Lovecraftian concepts of cosmic truth and forbidden knowledge. His frequent references to eyes, his appeals for greater understanding, and his dismissive attitude toward what he called beastly idiocy, all reflect a worldview that saw the physical world as a veil concealing deeper realities. He came to view most human activities as distractions from the pursuit of cosmic understanding, developing an almost contemptuous attitude toward conventional existence. Mensis cage that Micolash wore represents more than just a research tool. It functions as both a symbol of his commitment to transcendence and a physical manifestation of his transformed consciousness. The cage's iron construction and geometric design reflect the school's belief that consciousness could be mechanically enhanced and redirected toward cosmic perception. For Micolash, wearing the cage represented a deliberate choice to abandon normal human awareness in favor of something far more expansive and dangerous. Micolash's transformation from dutiful student to revolutionary scholar occurred gradually, driven by growing frustration with traditional academic limitations. His writings and dialogue suggest a mind increasingly detached from conventional human concerns, focused instead on abstract cosmic principles and the mechanics of transcendence. Where his colleagues maintained some connection to their human origins, Micolash seemed to embrace the dissolution of his humanity as a necessary step toward enlightenment. As host of the nightmare, Micolash serves multiple functions within the realm's structure and operation. He acts as a living anchor point, maintaining the connection between the physical world and the nightmare dimension through the force of his transformed consciousness. His presence stabilizes the entire realm, preventing it from dissolving back into the chaotic potential from which it emerged during the original ritual. The title host carries specific connotations within Bloodborne's cosmic horror framework, suggesting not merely leadership or ownership, but a more parasitic relationship where Micolash serves as a vessel for forces that use him for their own purposes. Mensis ritual itself represented the culmination of years of research and preparation, requiring not only extensive theoretical understanding, but also the willing sacrifice of the school's entire membership. The scholars understood that achieving direct contact with the infant Great One Mergo would require them to abandon their physical forms entirely. Projecting their consciousness into a nightmare realm where normal limitations of space and time would no longer apply, preparation for the ritual involved careful study of umbilical cords obtained from Great Ones, particularly the cord that would eventually grant them audience with Mergo. These cords represented physical connections to cosmic entities, serving as both communication devices and transformation catalysts. The school's research into the nature and properties of these cords provided them with the knowledge necessary to safely navigate the transition from physical to spiritual existence. Ritual took place within the unseen village of Yahargul, transforming the entire settlement into a staging ground for cosmic transcendence. The school's members arranged themselves in specific patterns throughout the village, their mensis cages creating a network of consciousness that could amplify and focus their collective will. This arrangement allowed them to pool their mental resources, creating a psychic force powerful enough to pierce the barriers between dimensions. Success of the ritual exceeded even the school's expectations, establishing not merely communication with Mergo, but creating an entire realm where such communication could take place. The nightmare of Mensis emerged as a physical manifestation of their collective unconscious, shaped by their desires and fears into a space that could accommodate both human consciousness and cosmic entities. However, this success came at a price that none of the participants had fully anticipated. Transformation of the school's members from physical beings to nightmare entities fundamentally altered their nature and capabilities. While they achieved their goal of transcending human limitations, they also lost essential aspects of their humanity that had provided meaning and purpose to their existence. The resulting entities, the nightmare apostles and various other servants that populate the realm, represent fragments of their former selves, transformed beyond recognition by their contact with cosmic forces. Micolash's current existence within the nightmare represents the ultimate paradox of his ambitions. He achieved direct contact with cosmic forces, but at the cost of everything that made that achievement meaningful. His consciousness exists in a state of eternal present, where past achievements and future goals blur together into a single ongoing experience. This temporal displacement explains his apparent detachment from immediate concerns and his focus on abstract cosmic principles. Philosophical implications of Micolash's transformation extend beyond the immediate context of Bloodborne's narrative to touch on fundamental questions about knowledge, ambition, and human nature. His achievement represents the ultimate fulfillment of scholarly ambition, direct access to cosmic truth, and the power to transcend human limitations. Yet this success comes at the cost of everything that originally motivated his pursuit of knowledge, leaving him isolated in an existence that mocks his original goals. Micolash's story serves as a meditation on the nature of success and failure in contexts where normal human values no longer apply. He succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, achieving contact with cosmic forces and gaining access to ultimate truth. Yet this success transformed him into something that can no longer appreciate or benefit from what he has achieved. His transformation represents both the pinnacle of human achievement and its ultimate futility when pursued without consideration for the preservation of human values and relationships. Architecture of madness. Physical structure of the nightmare of Mensis, stands as a testament to the transformed consciousness of its creators, manifesting their scholarly ambitions and cosmic revelations in architectural forms that defy conventional understanding of space and geometry. This realm exists not merely as a location, but as a living expression of the School of Mensis's collective psyche, shaped by their desires, fears, and the alien influence of the great ones with whom they achieved contact. Nightmare's overall layout reflects the hierarchical nature of academic institutions, while incorporating impossible geometries that speak to its otherworldly origins. The realm divides into several distinct sections, each serving specific functions within the broader structure, while maintaining thematic connections that reinforce the unified vision behind its creation. This organizational approach suggests that even in their transformed state, the former scholars retained enough of their original institutional thinking to create spaces with recognizable purposes and relationships. Entry point into the nightmare immediately establishes its character as a place where normal rules of architecture and physics no longer apply. Visitors arrive through a connection to the lecture building's second floor, stepping through a doorway that opens onto a landscape too vast and complex to exist within the confines of any normal structure. This transition serves as the first indication that the nightmare operates according to principles that transcend conventional spatial relationships. Initial area beyond the entrance presents a deceptively familiar environment with stone pathways and architectural elements that recall traditional academic buildings. However, closer examination reveals subtle wrongness in the proportions and relationships between structures. Corridors extend further than they should given the external dimensions of buildings. Staircases ascend to heights that cannot be supported by the visible foundations, and spaces that appear small from the exterior reveal themselves as vast chambers within. These architectural impossibilities create a constant sense of unease, suggesting that visitors have entered a space where normal expectations cannot be trusted. Great bridges that connect the major sections of the nightmare represent some of the most impressive architectural achievements within the realm. These massive stone spans reach across impossible distances, connecting structures that appear to float in space without visible support. The bridges themselves serve multiple functions, providing both practical transportation routes and elevated vantage points from which the nightmare's full scope becomes apparent. Their design incorporates both functional and symbolic elements that reflect the school's academic background and cosmic aspirations. Chapel of Mergo's Loft represents one of the nightmare's most significant architectural achievements, serving as both a functional space and a symbolic representation of the school's relationship with cosmic forces. This massive structure dominates the left portion of the realm. Its Gothic spires and elaborate stonework creating an atmosphere of religious solemnity that contrasts sharply with the academic origins of its creators. The chapel's interior design reflects a sophisticated understanding of sacred architecture, adapted to serve cosmic rather than traditional religious purposes. Positioning of the nightmare apostles throughout the chapel suggests that these spider-like entities serve as both guardians and congregants within this cosmic religious space. Their distribution throughout the various levels and chambers of the structure indicates a complex organizational system that may reflect hierarchies from the school's original human incarnation. The largest of these creatures, confined within the central chamber, appears to serve as a focal point for whatever religious or ritual activities continue to take place within this transformed space. Mergo's loft proper represents the culmination of the nightmare's architectural achievements, housing the most important entities and serving as the destination for the entire journey through the realm. This structure combines elements of residential architecture with impossible geometries that accommodate the needs of cosmic entities alongside the remnants of human consciousness. The result is a space that feels simultaneously intimate and vast, familiar and completely alien. Approach to Mergo's loft through a series of elevated platforms and bridges creates a sense of ascending towards something of ultimate importance and power. This vertical progression reinforces themes of transcendence and elevation that permeate the school's philosophical approach to cosmic knowledge. Each level of ascent reveals new perspectives on the nightmare's geography, while building anticipation for the ultimate encounter with the realm's most significant inhabitants. Wet Nurse's lunarium at the peak of Mergo's loft represents the nightmare's most sacred and significant space, designed specifically to accommodate the needs of the Great One who serves as guardian to the infant Mergo. The circular design of this chamber reflects both practical and symbolic considerations, creating a space that can contain cosmic entities while maintaining the protective enclosure necessary for the care of a Great One's child. The architectural details of the lunarium demonstrate sophisticated understanding of the requirements for housing cosmic entities. Vast library complexes that permeate the nightmare serve as repositories for the knowledge accumulated by the School of Mensis throughout their research program. These spaces reflect the scholar's commitment to preserving and organizing information even in their transformed state, maintaining intellectual traditions that span from their original human incarnation through their current cosmic existence. The design of the library spaces incorporates both practical and symbolic elements that speak to the dual nature of knowledge as both tool and treasure. Maze-like corridors that connect various sections of the nightmare reflect both the complexity of the knowledge contained within the realm and the psychological state of its creators. These passages twist and turn in ways that defy logical navigation, creating routes that seem to change based on the traveler's intentions and mental state. This architectural approach transforms movement through the space into a form of psychological exploration, where progress depends as much on mental preparation as on physical capability. Integration of natural and constructed elements throughout the nightmare creates an environment that feels both ancient and timeless, as if the structures have grown organically from the realm's essential nature rather than being imposed through conventional construction techniques. Trees and vegetation appear to emerge directly from stone surfaces, while water flows along courses that follow architectural rather than gravitational logic. This blending of natural and artificial elements suggests a realm where conventional categories no longer apply. Lighting throughout the nightmare creates atmospheric effects that reinforce its otherworldly nature while serving practical functions for navigation and ambience. The primary illumination comes from the malevolent glow of the Brain of Mensis, casting everything in an unsettling orange light that transforms familiar architectural elements into something alien and threatening. Secondary light sources, including torches and lanterns, provide focal points within the broader illumination while creating pools of relative safety within the dangerous environment. Acoustic properties of the nightmare's architecture contribute significantly to its atmospheric impact and practical functionality. The vast spaces and stone construction create echoing effects that amplify sounds while distorting their sources, making it difficult to determine the location and nature of potential threats. The constant background hum of cosmic energies provides an audio baseline that reinforces the realm's supernatural nature, while masking more subtle sounds that might provide navigational cues, defensive elements integrated throughout the nightmare's architecture. Reflect the creator's awareness that their realm might face intrusion from hostile forces. Hidden passages, concealed chambers, and strategic placement of dangerous entities all serve to protect the realm's most important secrets, while testing the worthiness of those who would seek access to cosmic knowledge. These defensive measures operate both passively and actively, responding to the intentions and capabilities of intruders in ways that suggest ongoing intelligence behind their operation. Relationship between indoor and outdoor spaces within the nightmare challenges conventional architectural categories, creating environments that feel simultaneously enclosed and open to cosmic influences. Courtyards and gardens provide respite from the claustrophobic interior spaces, while maintaining connection to the realm's unified aesthetic vision. These transitional areas serve important functions in the overall navigation and pacing of exploration, while offering opportunities for reflection and preparation. Preservation of certain architectural elements from the scholars' original human existence provides important clues about their transformation process and the aspects of their former lives they chose to maintain or abandon. Academic regalia, scholarly instruments, and institutional symbols appear throughout the nightmare in various states of preservation and transformation, offering glimpses into the lives and personalities that existed before the cosmic transcendence. Nightmare of Mensis stands as one of the most sophisticated examples of architectural world-building in gaming, creating a space that serves both practical gameplay functions and deep thematic purposes. Its impossible geometries and cosmic influences challenge players' expectations while providing a fitting environment for the cosmic horror themes that drive Bloodborne's narrative. Through its architecture, the nightmare tells the story of human ambition transformed by cosmic forces into something simultaneously magnificent and terrifying, offering both achievement and warning for those who would follow similar paths, inhabitants, and ecology. The denizens of the nightmare, the inhabitants of the nightmare of Mensis, exist as living embodiments of the transformation that occurred when the school's scholars abandoned their human forms in pursuit of cosmic transcendence. Each creature type within this realm tells a story of metamorphosis, representing different aspects of the original ritual participants and their varied fates within the nightmare dimension they helped create. Nightmare apostles, massive spider-like entities that populate much of the realm, appear to have a direct connection to the school's transformation. Though their exact origins remain unclear, their name and design suggest they may represent the deformed remains of the scholars, and their behavior patterns imply retained intelligence and social structure that could indicate fragments of their former academic hierarchy. Unlike the mindless beasts found in other areas of Bloodborne, these creatures demonstrate coordinated behavior that hints at lingering scholarly organization. Physical transformation of the nightmare apostles reveals the grotesque cost of the school's transcendence ritual. Their spider-like forms combine recognizable human elements with arachnid characteristics in ways that create maximum unsettling effect. The retention of recognizably human hands and postures suggests that these entities maintain some connection to their original identities, while their alien physiology speaks to the fundamental alteration of their essential nature. This blending of familiar and alien elements makes them particularly effective representations of the horror of transformation. Behavioral patterns exhibited by the nightmare apostles provide important insights into the social structures that persist within the transformed realm. These creatures often remain suspended from ceilings or hidden in shadows until disturbed, suggesting a collective awareness of intruders and coordinated defensive strategies. Their tendency to cluster in specific areas indicates territorial behavior and possibly retained memories of academic departments or research groups from their original human existence. This organizational persistence suggests that even cosmic transformation cannot completely erase deeply ingrained social patterns. Large nightmare apostle that dominates the chapel of Mergo's loft represents a particularly significant transformation, possibly indicating a former authority figure or senior researcher within the school's hierarchy. Its massive size and central positioning suggest continued leadership responsibilities, while its inability to leave the chapel may reflect either physical constraints or a sense of duty to guard specific knowledge or locations within the nightmare. This entity serves as a reminder that hierarchical structures often persist even through radical transformation. Winter lanterns scattered throughout the nightmare present, one of the most disturbing examples of the realm's inhabitants, combining elements that suggest possible connections to both the doll from the hunter's dream and the brain of Mensis itself. Their appearance, featuring bulbous heads covered in eyes and messengers, while wearing torn versions of the doll's clothing, creates an unsettling hybrid that could indicate connections between different nightmare realms. Though their exact origins remain mysterious, the appearance of winter lanterns within the nightmare of Mensis raises important questions about the interconnected nature of different nightmare realms within Bloodborne's cosmic framework. Winter Lantern's ability to induce frenzy through mere observation creates one of the most mechanically challenging aspects of navigating the nightmare while serving important thematic functions. Their presence transforms the act of perception itself into a source of danger, reinforcing Bloodborne's central themes about the perilous nature of forbidden knowledge and cosmic awareness. The gradual buildup of frenzy when observing these entities mirrors the psychological pressure experienced by scholars who delve too deeply into cosmic mysteries. Eerie singing that accompanies winter lanterns adds an auditory dimension to their horror that suggests retained memories of human emotion and expression transformed into something alien and threatening. The melodies they produce bear resemblance to lullabies, possibly reflecting distorted memories of comfort and care that have been corrupted by cosmic influence. This musical element creates an atmosphere of perverted domesticity that makes their presence even more unsettling than more overtly monstrous entities. Shadows of Ihanam that appear throughout various areas of the nightmare represent another category of transformed beings. Though their exact relationship to the original School of Mensis remains somewhat ambiguous, these hooded figures demonstrate coordinated tactical behavior and apparent intelligence, suggesting either transformed scholars or entities summoned through the school's cosmic rituals. Their equipment and abilities demonstrate sophisticated understanding of both martial and arcane techniques, implying extensive training and preparation that extends beyond normal academic pursuits. Silver Beast entities found within the nightmare present particularly interesting cases of transformation. As these creatures appear throughout multiple nightmare realms, while maintaining distinctive characteristics in each location. Within the nightmare of Mensis, These entities demonstrate behavior patterns that suggest adaptation to the specific conditions and requirements of this particular cosmic environment. Their presence indicates connections to the ancient civilization of Loran and its own tragic encounters with cosmic forces, suggesting that the school's research into historical precedents for cosmic contact may have led them to deliberately incorporate elements from Loran's experience into their own transformation ritual. Spawning parasites that emerge from defeated silverbeasts create additional layers of biological horror, while suggesting ongoing reproductive and ecological processes within the nightmare realm. These parasitic entities indicate that the nightmare functions as a complete ecosystem rather than merely a collection of individual creatures, with complex relationships and dependencies that mirror natural biological systems while operating according to cosmic, rather than earthly principles. This ecological complexity suggests that transcendence involves not the abandonment of all order, but the adoption of alien organizational principles. Mergo's attendants represent a specialized category of entities that serve specific functions related to the care and protection of the infant Great One, who serves as the nightmare's focal point. These creatures demonstrate refined behavior patterns and apparent intelligence that suggests they were created or transformed specifically for their current roles, rather than being general participants in the school's original ritual. The chief attendants among these entities show even greater sophistication and capability, wielding specialized weapons and demonstrating tactical awareness that indicates ongoing military or security functions within the nightmare's structure. Variety of weapon types and combat techniques employed by different attendant categories indicates a sophisticated understanding of tactical requirements and threat assessment within the nightmare environment. Some entities specialize in close quarters combat, while others demonstrate ranged capabilities or area of effect attacks. This diversification suggests ongoing strategic planning and adaptation to changing conditions within the realm, further supporting the idea that intelligence and organization persist despite the cosmic transformation. Scurrying beasts that appear throughout the nightmare provide both resource opportunities and additional threats, demonstrating the complex ecological relationships that exist within this transformed environment. These creatures appear to serve multiple functions within the nightmare's ecosystem, both as prey for larger entities and as scavengers that help maintain the realm's environmental balance. The enhanced capabilities demonstrated by some scurrying beasts within the nightmare, including their tendency to drop valuable materials when defeated, suggests that the cosmic influences affecting the realm have enhanced rather than diminished their natural abilities. Bell-ringing women who appear in various locations throughout the nightmare serve crucial functions in maintaining the realm's defensive systems and facilitating connections between different areas and dimensions. Their ability to summon additional entities from other nightmare realms indicates sophisticated understanding of cosmic communication and transportation systems. The positioning and behavior of bell-ringing women suggests that they retain significant intelligence and autonomy within the nightmare structure, making strategic decisions about when and where to summon reinforcements based on perceived threats and tactical requirements. Various human-headed creatures scattered throughout the nightmare represent perhaps the most tragic examples of the transformation process. Retaining enough human characteristics to be recognizable, while being altered beyond any possibility of return to their original state. These entities serve as constant reminders of the human cost of the school's cosmic ambitions, demonstrating that transcendence often comes at the price of everything that originally made existence meaningful. Their behavior patterns suggest retention of certain memories and emotional responses from their original lives, creating situations where they demonstrate recognition of human visitors while being unable to communicate or interact in meaningful ways. Distribution and behavior of all these entities throughout the nightmare reveals sophisticated organizational principles that suggest ongoing intelligence and purpose behind the realm's operation. Rather than existing as random collections of monsters, the inhabitants of the nightmare demonstrate coordinated behavior patterns, territorial organization, and strategic positioning that indicates continued operation of social and military structures adapted to cosmic conditions. This organizational persistence transforms the nightmare from a mere location into a complex society of transformed beings, each carrying fragments of their original human nature while adapting to existence within a cosmic horror framework that transcends normal understanding of life, death, and identity. Brain of Mensis and its significance looming over the nightmare of Mensis like a grotesque celestial body. The Brain of Mensis stands as perhaps the most viscerally disturbing manifestation of the school's failed transcendence. This massive, pulsating organ represents the collective consciousness of the scholars who participated in the original ritual, transformed into a singular entity that embodies both the heights of cosmic awareness and the depths of existential horror. Brain's physical appearance defies easy categorization within normal biological understanding. Its surface writhes with countless eyes, each one capable of perceiving realities beyond human comprehension, while its massive form suggests an organ that has grown far beyond any natural limitations. The grotesque arms that extend from its bulk, each ending in clawed appendages, speak to its transformation from pure consciousness into something that can interact with physical reality in increasingly disturbing ways. This combination of recognizable biological elements with alien characteristics creates an entity that feels simultaneously familiar and completely other. Understanding the brain's significance requires examining its role in the original Mensis ritual and the catastrophic transformation that followed. The school's research had indicated that achieving contact with the Great Ones would require the complete abandonment of individual consciousness in favor of a collective awareness capable of perceiving cosmic truth. The scholars understood that their individual minds, shaped by human limitations and biological constraints, would be inadequate for the task of communicating with entities that existed beyond normal dimensional boundaries. Ritual appears to have involved the school's members projecting their minds into the nightmare realm, abandoning their physical forms in pursuit of cosmic contact. While the exact process remains unclear, the third umbilical cord's description tells us that this granted Mensis audience with Mergo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. The brain of Mensis, described as having been extracted from the nightmare, could represent the collective result of this failed transcendence. The transformation process appears to have exceeded even the school's expectations in terms of both its success and its horrific consequences. Brain's influence over the nightmare of Mensis operates on multiple levels, from its direct effects on visitors to its role in maintaining the realm's structural integrity. Its most immediately apparent ability involves the generation of frenzy in those who look upon it directly, transforming the simple act of perception into a source of madness and terror. This effect reflects its nature as a repository of cosmic knowledge that exists beyond the capacity of normal human consciousness to safely process. The frenzy mechanism represents one of Bloodborne's most sophisticated adaptations of Lovecraftian themes, where knowledge itself becomes dangerous to those unprepared for its revelations. Frenzy effect generated by the brain serves multiple functions within the nightmare's defensive systems and thematic structure. On a practical level, it prevents casual exploration of certain areas within the realm, forcing visitors to carefully consider their movements and line of sight to avoid mental destruction. Thematically, it reinforces Bloodborne's central message about the dangerous nature of forbidden knowledge and the price of seeking truth beyond human limitations. The mechanics of the brain's frenzy generation reflect sophisticated understanding of psychological horror and the relationship between perception and consciousness. Positioning of the brain within the nightmare's architecture serves both practical and symbolic purposes. Its elevated location allows it to observe the entire realm while remaining largely inaccessible to casual interference. This positioning reflects its role as the nightmare's primary consciousness and coordinator, maintaining oversight of all activities within the realm while remaining protected from direct assault. The brain's placement also creates a visual focal point that dominates the landscape, constantly reminding visitors of its presence and influence. Brain's role as a great one becomes apparent through careful analysis of its capabilities and influence. Unlike the scholars who created it, the brain has achieved genuine transcendence, becoming something that exists beyond normal human categories while retaining enough connection to its origins to maintain the nightmare structure. Its classification as a great one speaks to the success of the Mensis ritual, even as its horrific appearance demonstrates the cost of that success. This duality between achievement and horror represents one of Bloodborne's most compelling philosophical statements about the nature of transcendence. The relationship between the brain and other entities within the nightmare suggests complex hierarchical structures that may govern the realm's operation. The nightmare apostles and other creatures appear to respond to the brain's influence, though whether this represents direct control or a more subtle form of coordination remains unclear. The preservation of some organizational structure within the nightmare implies that the brain might retain memory of the social patterns that existed among the scholars before their transformation. Though this connection remains largely speculative. Process of neutralizing the brain's threat involves manipulating the nightmare's architecture to drop the entity into a lower level of the realm, effectively removing it from its position of oversight and influence. This sequence serves as one of Bloodborne's most dramatic examples of environmental storytelling, as the player's actions directly alter the nature and atmosphere of the entire area. The cessation of the frenzy effect following the brain's displacement provides immediate feedback about the success of this intervention, transforming the nightmare from an actively hostile environment to one that can be navigated with relative safety. Descent of the brain into the lower depths of the nightmare creates opportunities for more direct interaction with this cosmic entity. In its fallen state, the brain appears helpless and pitiable, no longer capable of the terrible influence it once wielded. This transformation from terrifying cosmic horror to tragic victim reflects Bloodborne's sophisticated approach to moral complexity, refusing to present even its most alien entities as purely evil or threatening. The fallen brain becomes an object of pity rather than fear, suggesting that even successful transcendence may represent a form of imprisonment. Interaction between the player and the fallen brain through the make contact gesture represents one of Bloodborne's most poignant moments of cosmic communion. This gesture, learned from defeating the celestial emissary, serves as a form of communication with great ones that transcends normal language barriers. When performed in the brain's presence, it results in the granting of a moon rune, suggesting that the entity retains enough benevolent intention to reward those who approach it with respect rather than hostility. This moment of connection between human and cosmic consciousness represents one of the game's most hopeful statements about the possibility of meaningful exchange between different forms of being. Significance of the moon rune granted by the brain extends beyond its practical gameplay benefits to touch on fundamental themes about the nature of great ones and their relationship with humanity. The rune's description suggests that great ones living in the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit, possibly explaining the brain's willingness to provide assistance to those who treat it with dignity. This revelation challenges simplistic interpretations of the School of Mensis as purely villainous, suggesting instead that their transformation represents a tragedy for all involved. Brain's continued existence following the apparent death of Micolash, and the conclusion of the nightmare's main narrative thread raises important questions about the relationship between different aspects of the realm's consciousness. While Micolash serves as the nightmare's active coordinator and spokesperson, the brain appears to function as its memory and emotional core, maintaining the essential patterns and relationships that give the realm its distinctive character. This division of functions suggests that cosmic consciousness may operate according to principles of distributed awareness that transcend individual identity. Visual design of the brain draws inspiration from multiple sources within the cosmic horror tradition, while creating something uniquely disturbing within Bloodborne's aesthetic framework. Its combination of organic and alien elements reflects the game's approach to body horror, transforming recognizable biological structures into something that suggests both familiarity and complete otherness. The countless eyes that cover its surface recall both traditional depictions of cosmic entities and medical illustrations of neural tissue, creating unsettling associations between consciousness and physicality. Environmental effects generated by the brain's presence extend beyond its immediate frenzy-inducing capabilities to influence the overall atmosphere and mood of the nightmare. The orange light that bathes the entire realm appears to emanate from the brain's position, creating a visual connection between the entity and the space it inhabits. This illumination serves as a constant reminder of the brain's presence and influence, even when it cannot be directly observed. The sound design associated with the brain creates an audio landscape that reinforces its alien nature while suggesting the vast intelligence that lies behind its cosmic awareness. Brain's relationship with the concept of insight within Bloodborne's mechanical and thematic systems reveals important connections between knowledge, perception, and madness. As a repository of cosmic truth that exists beyond normal human comprehension, the brain represents the ultimate destination of the insight-gathering process that drives much of the game's progression. Its ability to induce frenzy through mere observation serves as a practical demonstration of the dangers inherent in seeking knowledge beyond human limitations. The brain thus becomes both the goal and the warning for those who pursue cosmic understanding. Symbolic significance of the brain extends beyond its immediate role within the nightmare's narrative to encompass broader themes about consciousness, identity, and the nature of transcendence. It represents the collective dreams and ambitions of the School of Mensis, transformed into something that transcends individual limitations, while losing everything that made those original dreams meaningful. This transformation serves as a meditation on the relationship between achievement and identity, questioning whether success that requires the abandonment of self can truly be considered victory. Brain of Mensis stands as one of Bloodborne's most successful examples of cosmic horror made manifest, creating an entity that embodies both the allure and the terror of forbidden knowledge. Its presence within the nightmare serves as a constant reminder of the price paid for cosmic transcendence, while its ultimate fate demonstrates the complex moral landscape that exists within the game's universe. Through the brain, players confront the fundamental questions that drive Bloodborne's narrative. What is the true cost of knowledge? Can transcendence be achieved without losing everything that makes existence meaningful? And what obligations do we have toward those who have paid the ultimate price for understanding? Mergo's wet nurse, and the core of the nightmare at the pinnacle of the nightmare of Mensis, stands its most enigmatic and powerful guardian, the entity known as Mergo's wet nurse. This towering figure represents the culmination of the School of Mensis's cosmic ambitions, serving as both protector and caretaker to the infant Great One, whose presence gives the entire realm its purpose and power. Understanding the wet nurse requires examining not only its immediate role within the nightmare, but also its broader significance within Bloodborne's complex mythology of cosmic entities and their relationships with humanity. Physical appearance of Mergo's wet nurse immediately establishes it as one of Bloodborne's most visually striking and thematically significant entities. Its imposing height and multiple arms create an immediately threatening presence, while the flowing black robes and mysterious void where its head should be suggest both funeral imagery and cosmic mystery. The combination of maternal protective instincts with otherworldly power creates a deeply unsettling figure that embodies many of Bloodborne's central themes about the relationship between creation and destruction. Protection and imprisonment. 6 arms that extend from the wet nurse's form each wield curved blades that bear striking resemblance to burial weapons, particularly Jaemon's burial blade and the blades of mercy. This weapon choice suggests connections to death and endings that extend beyond simple combat capability to encompass themes of finality and transition. The blades themselves appear to be crafted from siderite, a meteoric material associated with cosmic origins, reinforcing the entity's otherworldly nature while connecting it to the broader symbolic language of Bloodborne's weaponry. Flowing robes that envelop the wet nurse create an atmosphere of religious solemnity, while serving practical functions in combat and environmental interaction. The fabric appears to respond to otherworldly forces rather than normal atmospheric conditions, flowing and billowing in patterns that suggest movement through cosmic rather than earthly space. The dark coloration creates associations with mourning and mystery, while providing visual contrast to the generally warm-toned environment of the nightmare. These design choices reinforce the wet nurse's role as a figure of both protection and mystery. Absence of a visible head within the wet nurse's hood creates one of its most disturbing characteristics, suggesting either complete alien anatomy or consciousness that exists beyond physical form. This void where human observers expect to find facial features forces uncomfortable confrontations with the limitations of human perception and the inadequacy of anthropomorphic expectations when dealing with cosmic entities. The missing head becomes a symbolic representation of the incomprehensibility of cosmic consciousness. Challenging players attempts to understand the wet nurse through conventional categorization. Positioning of the wet nurse within the nightmare's hierarchy and geography reflects its crucial role as guardian and caretaker to Mergo, the infant Great One whose presence drives the entire realm's existence. The elevated location of the wet nurse's lunarium provides both practical security for the cosmic infant and symbolic elevation that reinforces the sacred nature of its protective duties. This positioning creates a sense of pilgrimage for those who would approach the realm's most significant inhabitants, emphasizing the importance of the entities contained within this space. Relationship between the wet nurse and Mergo represents one of Bloodborne's most complex explorations of cosmic family structures and protective relationships. Unlike human wet nurses who provide temporary care for infants, this entity appears to serve as a permanent guardian whose existence is fundamentally tied to the well-being of its charge. This bond transcends normal caregiving relationships to encompass cosmic responsibilities that extend across dimensional boundaries. The wet nurse's dedication to its protective duties suggests that concepts of nurture and protection may exist even at cosmic levels, though likely in forms beyond human understanding. Invisible nature of Mergo itself creates additional layers of mystery and cosmic horror, as the infant's presence can be detected through its cries and the protective responses of the wet nurse, but never directly observed. This invisibility suggests that Mergo exists primarily in dimensional spaces beyond normal human perception, requiring specialized cosmic senses to detect and interact with properly. The audible cries serve as the only consistent evidence of the infant's continued existence and needs, creating a situation where players must take the wet nurse's protective behavior as evidence of something they cannot directly perceive. Combat abilities demonstrated by the wet nurse reveal sophisticated understanding of both martial techniques and cosmic manipulation, suggesting either extensive training or innate capabilities that exceed normal physical limitations. Its use of multiple weapons simultaneously requires coordination and spatial awareness that transcends human capacity, while its ability to manipulate dimensional space during the Nightmare Veil attack demonstrates mastery over cosmic forces. These capabilities position the wet nurse as both a physical and metaphysical threat, challenging intruders on multiple levels simultaneously. Nightmare Veil, ability that the wet nurse employs during combat, represents one of the most sophisticated demonstrations of cosmic power within Bloodborne's gameplay systems. This attack creates multiple copies of the entity while shrouding the entire combat area in darkness, forcing opponents to navigate threats that operate according to altered rules of space and identity. The attack serves both practical combat functions and thematic purposes, demonstrating the fluid nature of identity and reality within cosmic contexts. This ability to manipulate perception and reality itself marks the wet nurse as a being of truly cosmic capabilities. Creation of duplicates during the Nightmare Veil sequence raises important questions about the nature of identity and consciousness for cosmic entities. Whether these copies represent true multiplication of the wet nurse's consciousness or sophisticated illusions designed to confuse opponents remains unclear. But either interpretation has significant implications for understanding how cosmic beings experience existence and interact with normal reality. This ability challenges conventional understanding of individuality and presence, suggesting that cosmic entities may operate according to principles of distributed consciousness that transcend normal spatial and identity constraints. Behavioral patterns exhibited by the wet nurse during its protective duties reveal complex emotional and instinctual responses that suggest retained connection to maternal protective instincts despite its cosmic transformation. Its positioning over Mergo's crib, its aggressive responses to perceived threats, and its eventual withdrawal following defeat all indicate genuine care and concern for its charge that transcends mere mechanical obligation. These behavioral patterns create a sense of tragedy around the encounter, as players find themselves in the position of threatening a being that is, from its perspective, simply protecting a child. Reaction of the wet nurse to the tiny music box creates one of the most intriguing mysteries within Bloodborne's lore, as this simple melody appears to evoke some form of recognition or emotional response from the cosmic entity. The box's ability to affect both the wet nurse and other entities throughout the game suggests that certain patterns of sound or rhythm may carry significance that transcends normal sensory experience to access deeper levels of consciousness or memory. This connection between mundane human artifacts and cosmic responses suggests unexpected points of contact between different levels of reality. Theory that connects the wet nurse to Viola, Father Gascoigne's deceased wife, remains speculative, but provides one possible explanation for the music box reaction. This theory draws support from Viola's disappearance from the tomb of Edon after the wet nurse's defeat and the entity's reaction to the melody. If this connection exists, it could suggest that death does not necessarily end consciousness, but may instead facilitate transformation into cosmic entities under specific circumstances. While this remains unconfirmed, the possibility adds layers of personal tragedy to what might otherwise appear as a purely cosmic conflict. Pithumerian characteristics visible in the wet nurse's attire and ornamentation suggest connections to the ancient civilization that first achieved contact with the Great Ones, implying either direct transformation of Pithumerian individuals or adoption of their cultural and aesthetic traditions by cosmic entities. These connections reinforce the cyclical nature of cosmic contact throughout Bloodborne's history, while suggesting that successful transcendence may require understanding and incorporation of previous attempts at cosmic communion. The wet nurse thus becomes a link in a chain of cosmic interaction that spans generations and civilizations. Defeat of the wet nurse triggers a series of consequences that extend far beyond the immediate combat encounter, affecting the entire structure and purpose of the nightmare of Mensis. The silencing of Mergo's cries following the entity's defeat suggests either the death of the infant Great One or its transition to a different state of existence that no longer requires active protection. This transformation marks the effective end of the nightmare's primary purpose and the conclusion of the School of Mensis's cosmic ambitions. The realm continues to exist, but its central reason for being has been fundamentally altered. Lamp that appears in the wet nurse's former location following its defeat provides access to the wet nurse's lunarium, allowing players to reflect on the significance of the encounter and its consequences for the broader narrative. This lamp serves both practical gameplay functions and thematic purposes, creating a moment of quiet contemplation following one of the game's most significant cosmic encounters. The silence that follows the battle stands in stark contrast to the earlier cries of Mergo, emphasizing the finality of the player's actions and their impact on the nightmare's ecology. Gratitude expressed by Queen Ihanam following the wet nurse's defeat reveals additional layers of cosmic family dynamics and political relationships that exist between different Great Ones and their associated human civilizations. Ihanam's appreciation for the freeing of Mergo suggests that the infant's captivity within the nightmare represented a source of ongoing cosmic conflict that extended beyond the immediate concerns of the School of Mensis. This moment of connection between the player and the ancient queen suggests that human and cosmic interests may occasionally align, even if for different reasons. Items and knowledge gained through defeating the wet nurse provide important insights into the nature of cosmic reproduction and the relationships between adult and infant Great Ones. The third umbilical cord obtained from this encounter serves as physical evidence of the cosmic birth process, while providing practical tools for those who would follow similar paths toward transcendence. This connection between narrative revelation and gameplay mechanics creates a satisfying synthesis that reinforces Bloodborne's themes through both story and interactive elements. Environmental changes that occur throughout the nightmare following the wet nurse's defeat demonstrate the interconnected nature of cosmic entities and the realms they inhabit. The cessation of various threatening effects and the altered behavior of remaining creatures suggests that the wet nurse's influence extended far beyond its immediate protective duties to encompass broader regulatory functions within the nightmare's ecosystem. These changes show that cosmic entities are not isolated actors, but integral components of their environments, with their presence or absence having profound effects on the reality around them. Philosophical implications of the wet nurse encounter extend beyond immediate narrative concerns to encompass fundamental questions about protection, sacrifice, and the nature of cosmic responsibility. The entity's dedication to its protective duties, maintained even unto death, serves as both admirable example and tragic warning about the costs of absolute commitment to cosmic purposes. The encounter forces players to confront uncomfortable questions about their own role in disrupting cosmic family structures, challenging simple categorizations of heroism and villainy in cosmic contexts where human moral frameworks may no longer apply. Visual and auditory design elements associated with the wet nurse create one of Bloodborne's most memorable atmospheric experiences, combining threatening presence with genuine pathos in ways that challenge simple categorizations of enemy and ally. The encounter forces players to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of protection, the value of cosmic knowledge, and the moral implications of disrupting even alien family structures in pursuit of personal goals. Mergo's wet nurse stands as the ultimate expression of Bloodborne's sophisticated approach to cosmic horror, creating an entity that embodies both the allure and the terror of otherworldly contact while maintaining enough recognizable emotional and protective instincts to evoke genuine sympathy and moral complexity. Horror foundations. Lovecraftian influences and themes, the nightmare of Mensis, exists not as an isolated phenomenon, but as an integral component of Bloodborne's vast cosmic horror framework, drawing connections to H.P. Lovecraft's literary traditions while expanding those concepts into new territories of interactive terror. Understanding these connections requires examining how the nightmare fits within the broader context of cosmic horror as both a literary genre and a philosophical approach to humanity's place in an incomprehensible universe. H.P. Lovecraft's influence on the nightmare of Mensis becomes apparent through multiple layers of thematic and aesthetic correspondence that extend far beyond surface-level references to tentacles and alien geometries. The fundamental Lovecraftian concept of cosmic indifference, the idea that humanity exists as an insignificant footnote in a universe governed by forces that neither know nor care about human concerns, permeates every aspect of the nightmare's design and function. The School of Mensis sought to communicate with cosmic entities, but their transformation into nightmare creatures suggests that such communication may be possible only through the complete abandonment of human identity and values. Relationship between knowledge and madness that defines much of Lovecraft's work finds its most direct expression in the nightmare through the mechanics of insight and frenzy that govern player interaction with cosmic entities. Like Lovecraft's protagonists, who inevitably suffer psychological destruction through their encounters with cosmic truth, visitors to the nightmare face immediate threats to their sanity simply by perceiving the reality of their situation. This transformation of perception itself into a source of danger represents one of Bloodborne's most sophisticated adaptations of Lovecraftian themes, creating a situation where understanding and madness become increasingly difficult to distinguish. Great ones who influence and inhabit the nightmare of Mensis embody Lovecraft's vision of cosmic entities whose motivations and methods transcend human understanding. Unlike traditional mythological deities who operate according to recognizable moral frameworks, these beings pursue goals that may be beneficial, harmful, or completely neutral to human interests, depending on circumstances that remain forever beyond human comprehension. This moral ambiguity creates the sense of cosmic vertigo that defines effective cosmic horror, positioning humanity as insignificant observers of conflicts and purposes they cannot hope to understand. Architectural impossibilities that characterize the nightmare recall Lovecraft's descriptions of Allure and other non-Euclidean spaces when normal geometric principles cease to apply. These structural anomalies serve not merely as atmospheric details, but as physical manifestations of the alien logic that governs cosmic entities and their domains. The inability of human consciousness to fully process these spatial relationships creates constant low-level psychological pressure that reinforces the theme of human inadequacy in cosmic contexts. This environmental approach to cosmic horror represents one of Bloodborne's most significant contributions to the genre. The temporal distortions evident throughout the nightmare reflect another key element of Lovecraftian cosmic horror: the inadequacy of human concepts of time and causality when applied to cosmic scales. Events within the nightmare appear to occur simultaneously across multiple time frames, while past and future blur together in ways that suggest the linear progression of time represents a human limitation rather than a universal principle. This temporal fluidity creates narrative structures that mirror the disorienting effect of encountering entities for whom eons pass like moments, further emphasizing the insignificance of human temporal experience. Theme of hereditary cosmic horror that runs throughout Lovecraft's work finds expression in the nightmare through the relationship between the School of Mensis and their Byrgenwerth predecessors, as well as the broader pattern of cyclical cosmic contact that has occurred throughout Bloodborne's history. Each generation of scholars who attempts to engage with cosmic forces follows similar patterns, suggesting that certain human tendencies toward transcendence represent inherited characteristics that inevitably lead to familiar tragic outcomes. This cyclical view of history challenges progressive narratives of human development, suggesting that certain patterns repeat regardless of technological or social advancement. Concept of cosmic evolution that appears in several Lovecraft stories. The idea that humanity represents merely one stage in a broader evolutionary process that leads towards something unrecognizably alien manifests clearly in the transformation of the School of Mensis from human scholars to cosmic entities. This evolution represents neither progress nor degradation in traditional terms, but rather a fundamental shift in the nature of existence that transcends normal categories of improvement or decline. The nightmare becomes a living museum of this evolutionary process, displaying both its achievements and its costs in equal measure. Nightmare's relationship to other nightmare realms within Bloodborne creates a cosmological structure that recalls Lovecraft's interconnected mythos, where different stories reveal aspects of a larger cosmic framework that extends beyond any individual narrative. The nightmare frontier, the hunter's nightmare, and the various dream realms all exist within a larger dimensional matrix that suggests vast cosmic structures operating according to principles that dwarf human understanding. This interconnected cosmology creates a sense of vastness and complexity that effectively communicates the scale of cosmic horror beyond what any single location could achieve. Role of forbidden texts and secret knowledge in creating the nightmare connects directly to Lovecraft's recurring theme of dangerous books and the catastrophic consequences of reading them. The vast libraries within the nightmare serve as repositories for knowledge that proves too dangerous for human consciousness to safely process, creating situations where learning itself becomes a form of cosmic horror that threatens the reader's essential nature. This theme reflects Lovecraft's ambivalent relationship with knowledge. His stories simultaneously celebrate the pursuit of understanding while warning about its potential costs. Influence of cosmic entities on human artistic and intellectual expression finds representation in the nightmare's architectural and aesthetic achievements, which exceed human capabilities, while retaining enough recognizable elements to suggest human origins. This pattern recalls Lovecraft's descriptions of alien influence on human creativity, where contact with cosmic forces enables achievements that transcend normal human limitations, while fundamentally altering the creator's essential nature. The nightmare thus becomes a monument to both human ambition and cosmic transformation, representing what happens when human creativity becomes a vessel for alien influences. Concept of cosmic sympathy that appears in some of Lovecraft's later works. The idea that truly advanced cosmic entities might possess benevolent intentions toward lesser beings emerges in the nightmare through the behavior of entities like the Brain of Mensis, which provides assistance to those who approach it with appropriate respect and understanding. This possibility of cosmic benevolence creates moral complexity that prevents simple categorization of cosmic forces as purely hostile or beneficial. This nuanced approach to cosmic entities represents a sophisticated development of Lovecraft's original concepts, acknowledging that alien consciousness might operate according to ethical frameworks too complex for human understanding. Nightmare's treatment of scientific methodology and rational inquiry reflects Lovecraft's ambivalent relationship with empirical knowledge and the scientific revolution. While the School of Mensis pursued their goals through systematic research and experimental methodology, their ultimate achievements transcend the categories of success and failure that normally govern scientific enterprise, suggesting that cosmic truth exists beyond the reach of conventional intellectual tools. This tension between scientific rationalism and cosmic mystery represents one of the most compelling aspects of both Lovecraft's work and Bloodborne's narrative. Acknowledging the power of scientific methods while recognizing their limitations when applied to truly alien phenomena. Presence of cyclical patterns throughout the nightmare's history and structure recalls Lovecraft's vision of cosmic time as fundamentally different from human temporal experience, where vast cycles of death and rebirth occur according to celestial mechanics that dwarf human historical consciousness. The recurring patterns of cosmic contact, transformation, and transcendence suggest that the events depicted in Bloodborne represent just one iteration of cycles that have occurred countless times throughout cosmic history. This cyclical view challenges human notions of uniqueness and progress, suggesting that what appears revolutionary from a human perspective may represent merely the latest manifestation of eternal patterns. Emphasis on dreams and nightmare states as pathways to cosmic reality connects the nightmare of Mensis to Lovecraft's dream cycle stories, where sleep provides access to dimensions and experiences that exceed waking consciousness. The multiple nightmare realms within Bloodborne suggest a layered reality where dreams possess their own objective existence rather than serving merely as products of individual psychology. This approach to dreams as alternative realities rather than psychological phenomena represents a significant development of Lovecraft's concepts, creating a cosmology where different states of consciousness provide access to different levels of reality. Linguistic elements that appear throughout the nightmare, including the Karil runes and the various invocations spoken by cosmic entities, reflect Lovecraft's interest in the power of language to access and control cosmic forces. These communication systems operate according to principles that transcend normal linguistic structures, suggesting that cosmic consciousness requires forms of expression that exceed human communicative capabilities. This attention to the linguistic dimensions of cosmic horror represents one of Bloodborne's most sophisticated engagements with Lovecraft's themes. Acknowledging that communication with alien entities might require fundamentally different tools than human language. Relationship between individual identity and cosmic consciousness, explored throughout the nightmare, recalls Lovecraft's treatment of the dissolution of self that accompanies cosmic enlightenment. The transformation of the school's members from distinct individuals to collective cosmic entity reflects the Lovecraftian theme that true cosmic awareness requires the abandonment of human individuality in favor of something larger and more significant. This tension between individual identity and cosmic consciousness represents one of the central philosophical concerns of cosmic horror, questioning whether meaningful existence requires the preservation of individual selfhood. Role of sacrifice and transformation in achieving cosmic transcendence connects the nightmare to broader themes within cosmic horror about the price of accessing forbidden knowledge. Like Lovecraft's protagonists, who often pay terrible prices for their cosmic insights, the scholars of Mensis achieved their transcendence through complete abandonment of their original nature, suggesting that cosmic evolution requires fundamental discontinuity rather than gradual development. This theme of radical transformation as the price of enlightenment challenges progressive narratives of gradual improvement, suggesting that true cosmic understanding might require the complete abandonment of everything that defines humanity. Nightmare of Mensis succeeds in adapting Lovecraftian cosmic horror to interactive media by maintaining the essential elements of existential dread and cosmic insignificance, while providing agency and engagement opportunities that differ from traditional literary approaches. Players experience cosmic horror not merely as observers, but as active participants whose choices and actions have consequences within the cosmic framework, creating new forms of cosmic responsibility and moral complexity. This interactive approach to cosmic horror represents a significant evolution of the genre, maintaining its essential themes while adapting them to the unique capabilities of video games as a medium. Environmental storytelling techniques employed throughout the nightmare allow for the communication of cosmic horror themes through direct experience rather than exposition, enabling players to discover the implications of cosmic contact through exploration and interaction rather than description. This approach creates more immediate and visceral connections to cosmic horror concepts, while maintaining the essential mystery and ambiguity that define effective cosmic horror. The Nightmare of Mensis stands as one of the most successful examples of cosmic horror adaptation in any medium, capturing not only the surface elements of Lovecraftian style, but the deeper philosophical and existential concerns that drive cosmic horror as a genre conclusion. The legacy of the nightmare as we emerge from our extended exploration of the Nightmare of Mensis. We find ourselves carrying fragments of its cosmic terror back into our own world. The nightmare's enduring power lies not merely in its monstrous inhabitants or its architectural wonders, but in the profound philosophical questions it raises about knowledge, ambition, and the price of transcendence. The tragedy of the School of Mensis serves as a cautionary tale for all who would seek to elevate humanity through contact with forces beyond our comprehension, reminding us that some doors once opened cannot be closed, and some knowledge once gained cannot be forgotten without cost. Nightmare's legacy extends far beyond the boundaries of its own reality, influencing subsequent generations of scholars, hunters, and seekers who would follow similar paths toward cosmic understanding. The knowledge accumulated by the School of Mensis, preserved within the nightmare's vast libraries, continues to exist as a temptation for those who believe they can avoid the mistakes of their predecessors. This cyclical pattern of ambition and tragedy suggests that the desire for transcendence represents a fundamental aspect of human nature that will continue to manifest regardless of historical warnings and precedents. What makes the Nightmare of Mensis uniquely compelling within the landscape of horror gaming is its sophisticated integration of gameplay mechanics with thematic depth. The frenzy mechanic transforms perception itself into a source of danger, The architectural impossibilities challenge players' spatial reasoning, and the tragic narrative raises questions about the morality of players' own actions within the game world. This synthesis of interactive elements and philosophical concerns creates an experience that transcends entertainment to become genuine artistic expression, demonstrating the unique capabilities of video games as a medium for exploring complex ideas through direct experience rather than passive observation. Nightmare also represents a significant achievement in environmental storytelling, conveying its narrative and themes through architecture, creature design, and atmospheric details rather than explicit exposition. Players piece together the story of the School of Mensis through careful observation and interpretation, becoming active participants in the process of historical reconstruction. This approach to storytelling respects players' intelligence while creating a deeper sense of engagement with the game world, transforming exploration from a mechanical activity into an intellectual and emotional journey. Moral complexity of the nightmare challenges simplistic categorizations of good and evil, presenting instead a tragedy of conflicting values and unintended consequences. The School of Mensis pursued noble goals, the elevation of humanity beyond its limitations, through methods that became increasingly horrific. Their ultimate transformation into nightmare creatures represents both the achievement and the failure of their ambitions, creating a situation where success and failure become difficult to distinguish. This moral ambiguity forces players to confront uncomfortable questions about their own actions within the game world, challenging conventional video game narratives where heroism and villainy are clearly defined. Nightmare of Mensis also stands as a testament to the power of cosmic horror as a philosophical framework for exploring humanity's place in a vast and incomprehensible universe. By presenting cosmic entities as neither benevolent nor malevolent, but simply alien, the nightmare challenges anthropocentric views of reality, suggesting that human concerns and values may be insignificant on a cosmic scale. This perspective, while terrifying, also contains a strange comfort. If the cosmos is indifferent to humanity, then our failures and shortcomings are equally as insignificant as our achievements from a cosmic perspective. Interactive nature of the nightmare experience represents a significant evolution of cosmic horror as a genre. Where traditional Lovecraftian stories often feature passive protagonists overwhelmed by cosmic forces, Bloodborne positions players as active agents who can confront and even overcome cosmic entities. This shift from passive observation to active engagement creates new possibilities for cosmic horror, allowing for the exploration of how human agency and determination might function in contexts where humanity is cosmically insignificant. The result is a form of cosmic horror that acknowledges human limitations while still allowing for meaningful action and choice, as we conclude our journey through the nightmare of Mensis. We are left with lingering questions that extend beyond the game itself. What responsibilities do we have when pursuing knowledge that might prove dangerous. How do we balance ambition with humility when confronting forces beyond our understanding? And what aspects of our humanity are we willing to sacrifice in the name of transcendence? These questions resonate far beyond the confines of video games, touching on concerns that have occupied philosophers, scientists, and artists for centuries. Nightmare of Mensis ultimately stands as one of gaming's most profound achievements, creating an experience that combines visceral horror with intellectual depth, mechanical sophistication with philosophical complexity. Its enduring power lies in its ability to haunt players long after they've put down the controller, its questions lingering in the mind like fragments of a half-remembered dream. In the end, the nightmare serves not merely as a setting for entertainment, but as a mirror reflecting our own ambitions, fears, and uncertainties about knowledge, power, and the price of transcendence. If this journey into the heart of cosmic horror has sparked your curiosity to explore more of Bloodborne's richly imagined world, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Countless other mysteries await unraveling in From Software's masterpiece, from the tragic history of the Healing Church to the secrets of the hunter's dream itself. The night is long, and there are always more secrets to uncover, more stories to tell, and more nightmares to confront. Until next time, may you find your worth in the waking world, and remember, some truths are too terrible to comprehend, but too important to ignore. Thank you for joining me on this descent into the nightmare of Mensis, and pleasant dreams, fellow seekers of forbidden knowledge.